So, you ready? All right. So we're going to call the meeting to order. A workshop. Head on. So I guess we'll get started. The second thing on the agenda is to review the proposed ordinance 3082 prohibiting unlicensed commercial use on boat ramps and city parks. So turn it over to Mr. Zimmerman.
Thank you. Am I on? Good. Commission, the ordinance itself hasn't changed from what you saw at the last commission meeting. So what I will talk about primarily is this memorandum that is in your package, I believe is now been put on the website for anybody that would like to look at it. But let me just go through that. I think that might be useful to frame our discussion. So what I have attached there, I have the Panama City ordinance, which is the same ordinance that you had previously, the proposed one. I have the Bay County ordinance. The county ordinance was one that was adopted, I think, in March or April of this year. And what we're talking about is regulating or prohibiting, depending on the boat ramp, commercial uses of public boat ramps. Then we have another issue that came up at the last meeting concerning charter boats and their use at St. Andrews Marina. So both of those issues are talked about. We have the Walton County ordinance. We have the Orange County ordinance, and also what's called Public Boat Ramp Commercial Operations Guidelines. And then we have the St. Petersburg rules and ordinance and rules and regulations. So I'll kind of go through this, and it might be helpful for the discussion. I first started with the outline of the problems, and the same problems we have had. If you look at the whereas clauses or the rationales for the different ordinances that have been adopted are the same. The commercial activity, which includes picking up, dropping off passengers for various commercial boating tours, jet ski rentals, other commercial activity, results in not allowing the public to enjoy their boat ramps. It results in parking problems, congestions around the boat ramp in the water, delays in launching boats at the boat ramp, and generally unsafe conditions. So a proposed solution to consider is for the commercial use of boat ramps is to prohibit commercial use at neighborhood boat ramps, and that's what Bay County did, and then to regulate the commercial use at the other boat ramps. And then also indicated the issues at the St. Andrews Marina is in this memorandum. And that is that boats will pick up and drop off passengers at locations on the marina that are unsafe. Sometimes when they're fueling, they'll load and unload passengers or at another location at the marina. And the proposed solution to investigate is to install a temporary floating dock in the southeast basin of the St. Andrews Marina where a charter boat can pick up and drop off passengers. In other words, there's a recognition that the St. Andrews Marina is not complete. It has not been rebuilt. There's a limited number of slips. So maybe there is something that can be done on a temporary basis to have a dock for loading and unloading and for charter boat uses. And then another issue that came up, we talked about yoga classes in parks, and the draft of the ordinance is fairly broad. And so our recommendation is that we just focus now on marinas, on the boat ramps, and then the St. Andrew Marina, and that we already have use permits for our public parks, whether it's a wedding, whether it's a farmer's market or anything like that. So just to go over the ordinances, the Panama City proposed ordinance. Commercial, it has the findings, commercial activity has interfered with public enjoyment. This is common to all ordinances I saw. No docking, anchoring, or securing a boat at any boat ramp for more than 15 minutes. No commercial use of neighborhood boat ramps that include picking up, dropping off passengers, soliciting or advertising commercial activity for hire, designating the city site address as their business address, or collecting compensation at the city's site. And then if commercial uses are allowed, then there's a process which we do not have in writing, but a process to obtain a city license. And then you have attached the same ordinance that you had before. Exhibit B in your package is the Bay County ordinance. And the first thing you see is the article that was in the News Herald on April 6th. That the Bay County ordinance has once again, only 15 minutes for docking, no commercial use of neighborhood boat ramps. Commercial uses are allowed at all other ramps for picking up and dropping off passengers, but only if a person holds a valid license issued by the county. However, at this time, the county has not implemented any licensing process, so they don't have an application on how you get a license or anything like that. But they do in their ordinance, they list the ramps that are residential, where commercial activity is prohibited, and then they have a list of ramps where commercial activity is allowed. The other ordinance that is attached, just for information purposes, is one from Walton County. Now, Walton County has commercial activity at public boat ramps. Their definition is any business-related action, including launching or meeting or picking up clients. And it says that the purpose of the Walton County ordinance is to improve the access and use of the public boat ramps. It says a commercial, if you have a commercial use, it's only by permit, and it's required for any commercial activity. They don't really have guidelines, but in the ordinance it says a permit cost is $250 per year, and you must provide proof of current Coast Guard's captain's license or current Florida charter fishing license, and proof of liability insurance of at least $100,000. And that short ordinance is there. Also have the Orange County ordinance. Orange County, of course, is not a coastal, but it does have quite a few large freshwater lakes. So they have they define commercial activity similar to the rest of the ordinances. And it says that no person will use any boat ramp for commercial activity unless licensed or permitting pursuant to the Parks and Rec Public Boat Ramp Commercial Operations Guidelines. And I have attached those guidelines. It defines what commercial activity is: picking up, dropping off passengers, solicitation, collecting compensation, very similar to what the Panama City ordinance has. And then I summarized the Public Boat Ramp Commercial Operations Guideline. It has a protocol for operation of private commercial businesses out of public boat ramps. And they have one public boat ramp, Highway 50 boat ramp. And there, they limit the number of licenses to 10. And the fee per license is $3,500 annual permit fee. That's the only one I saw that would have that type of fee and the limitation to 10. And then also businesses, they must be a business entity. They must provide liability insurance, proof of liability insurance, provide indemnification to Orange County. The city or the county manager can limit the number of licenses for each boat ramp depending on how much parking, the activity, things like that. Employees must pass annually an FDLE background screening. And then, of course, unpermitted businesses are prohibited from operating. And then you have proof of the required captain's license, master license where applicable, and all. So that was what Orange County had. And just have, I think, one more, and that is St. Petersburg. St. Petersburg is your last, it's called Exhibit E. Commercial vessels must obtain a permit, and then a summary of the rules and regulations. Commercial use is only at designated boat ramps. The number of commercial permits issued for each boat ramp shall be determined, I think by the city manager. There's a $240 annual fee, and also indemnification and liability insurance must be provided. So going back to the memo on the second page there, it says that the proposal is to prohibit, from Panama City staff, is to prohibit commercial activity at neighborhood boat ramps, and then to regulate commercial activity at the other larger boat ramps. So the neighborhood boat ramps in the list that we have would be Bob George in Millville, the Millville Waterfront, which is kayak only, and I believe we just got our permit to do that. Lake Huntington in St. Andrews. Cawbray, the proposal here is to prohibit commercial activity at Cawbray. And then Snug Harbor in Millville. Snug Harbor is not constructed yet, but when it's constructed, it would not have, it would be considered a neighborhood boat ramp. Then the other boat ramps where commercial use would be allowed would be the Panama City Marina and St. Andrews Marina. And then the regulations that we have not developed by city staff generally provide for the county or city to limit the number of commercial licenses depending on the boat ramp. There is a fee that is paid for the license. There are some general regulations concerning the use of the boat ramp. There would be an agreement from the commercial vessel owner to indemnify the county or city from any damage that the commercial vessel may cause, and the requirement for the commercial vessel owner to have liability insurance. A decal would be affixed to the commercial vessel to obtain a license from the city. Also, this could be tied into a business license that is run through our business licensing division. So the last little bullet item just talked about the idea of a temporary boat dock. So that gives some context for the discussion today, Mayor and commissioners, and the city manager will discuss things as well.
So thank you, Nevin, and certainly this has been an interesting journey that we've been going through, and at the end of the day, the desire is to ensure that we enhance our quality of life for all of our citizens while simultaneously having the economic activities done safely and appropriately in our community. We think that basically dividing it up into two components that Nevin just highlighted, which is talking about boat ramps, in particular in the neighborhood locations, separate from the activities of commercial vessels going on principally over at St. Andrews, but could be eventually at Panama City Marina, would be the best way to do this. We've had a lot of input from citizens with regard to this, talking about unlicensed captains that are out there actually doing a lot of business, a lot of illegal activities, quite frankly, that are going on with regard to operations of vessels. The Coast Guard has been approached about trying to be here, but they had a conflict today, but they're willing to be a partner to this in terms of helping to do different types of inspection levels, so that can be a part of the vetting process for those that seek a permit for commercial activities that will go in and out of the St. Andrews. I'm just going to talk about St. Andrews right now because it's principally at St. Andrews. Additionally, separate from that, the city staff has worked on looking to see how we can make a safer operation for more vessels to come in and out of the St. Andrews Marina and have passengers on board and off board because we have such limited slip capability. So we've got temporary docking facilities that we're looking to lease until we can get the totality of the marina rebuilt. Of course, that marina, as we've shared before, is going to be done in multiple phases so that we can maintain operations of the marina while it's under construction, which is very important for a lot of reasons. We think that dividing it up into the two components, which is talking about the neighborhood boat ramps and then separately the commercial activities in St. Andrews and Panama City Marina, is probably the best way to address this issue. And at the end of the day, it's to try to ensure that we have an equitable playing field for businesses to do their business within the city limits of Panama City, and we want that to happen. How can we do that safely and not create a playing field that's not equitable for all? So appreciate Nevin's research and the work that he's done helping us to guide through and putting it in context with our organizations, the counties and cities across the state that have faced a very similar issue. But happy to have more conversation about each and every one of these, but we think that this is the better way to do this, and it makes a safer environment for the neighborhood boat ramps, for people to just launch their boats and go on and do their great things that they want to do while people are swimming in the vicinity in some of the cases. But then separately get a handle on and making sure that we have passengers that are getting on vessels, assuming they're doing so in, like, for example, St. Andrews, that those vessels are captained by licensed individuals, that they're insured, that they have been inspected, that those vessels will operate as they should with all the safety features that are required from the United States Coast Guard.
Comments on Ms. Halligus, would you like to make a comment now or?
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I had one thing I wanted to say, that Captain Zales had sent like quite a bit of information. Wasn't sure if staff has overlaid that to what you're talking about now. Mark, have you had a chance to do that?
Yeah, it is. It's exactly in parity with some of the research that he did. I appreciate it. I don't know where he is.
Yeah, he's actually chartering right now.
He's out fishing.
He's out fishing. Okay, another thing I wanted to say was like Carl Gray, what was I gonna say? Oh, how about kayaking, jet skis? Like behind Destination Panama City is a great place for people to kayak if they want to do commercial. I know, especially once the hotels open, we talked to St. Joe about that as well. So what about kayaking, canoeing, jet skis? Is that something that could be designated at some of these? Like, I think that the Millville waterfront and maybe even Lake Huntington, Carl Gray, and probably Destination Panama City, those may be good for like the walk-in by foot type commercial activity. That's it.
Good point. I just want to say, didn't we, when we built the Destination Panama City, didn't we say that that would be available to use for kayaks?
I think right now, the way.
It may not be ready.
Yeah, I don't know that, I think you could put a kayak in there, but I don't think you could launch your boat behind it.
No,
I mean,
not-
you might be able to put a
Not-
canoe or
not deep
something,
enough.
but
I know.
no, and there's really no place to back boats in
But-
over there.
She was
Yeah,
asking.
yeah. So I'm talking about minus boats. Other activity like that, like canoeing, kayaking, paddle boarding, that kind of thing. Could we carve out some of these that could hold those kind of commercial uses, just not, boat commercial uses?
Right. So as we were trying to more clearly define the issue, we did not contemplate parks that were adjacent to the water unless it had a boat ramp or a kayak launch capability, such as Millville waterfront. We did not want to happy to go ahead and explore that with the other parks that are adjacent to the water, but that was not the purpose of what we were intending to do. We wanted to focus on the boat ramps first that are at our parks. And the one at Destination Panama City has no boat ramp associated with that.
Okay, so I mean, that's fine. We can deal with that later, but I'm thinking that there's probably some smaller commercial uses for those. I just want to make sure it wasn't an all or nothing. That's all I had.
Right. And I think, as Nevin pointed out, there are instances where we do go through a permitting process, part of our special events permits, which we have, which allow for permitted activities to take place on parks. And I'll just point out very quickly, the two, or the farmers markets that we have at various parks across the city. That went through the commission process, very deliberate permitting process, and for a period of time. And that would be one example, similarly to weddings and the permit process that we go through to help ensure that weddings can take place without any interference. So and that's a part of the special events process. And that's all baked into what we're trying to do on non-boat ramp locations of parks that happen to be waterfront.
If I could add one thing here, Mr. McQueen. This is from the, let me get this straight here, from the United States Coast Guard. As I understand it, the Coast Guard cannot require boats to get inspected, and they cannot require and have a decal for either the UPV,
UVA.
UPVP, free. Right. However, a city can require all commercial boats.
That's right.
That to have a UPV examination by the Coast Guard.
That's correct.
By the Coast Guard. So that would be a great aid as far as the Coast Guard is concerned in reducing illegal charters.
That's correct.
Is that worded in here?
That's what I'm suggesting. It's not worded in here,
It's
but
just what I received from the Coast Guard.
that's right. That's what we think that, as Nevin indicated, there would be, for the boat ramps of Panama City Marina and St. Andrews Marina, that there would be a permitting system put in place that would allow for operations to take place. But one of these requirements would be exactly as you just described, the UVA.
And they would have to have a
inspection.
decal would help. Be
That's correct.
Greatly helpful.
That's correct. And there would be
I don't think anybody would disagree with that.
annual decals, color coded, so it'd be easily identifiable, put on the port side of the.
I presume that's because their jurisdiction starts in the.
That's right. But they can do that, but we can ask them to have that as a requirement. That's correct.
I just didn't know if that was worded in what we're proposing.
Right
It's-
now, it is not there because the guidelines for the permitting process has not been written. So we've looked at these other jurisdictions, and so part of the process is we get feedback from the commission today, and then staff goes to work, comes back with something in writing program with the process for giving out permits.
Any other comments from up here before we have the public speak? Josh?
Yeah, so obviously we've all gotten a lot of contact, a lot of communication over this. There were a couple of things that I had some notes on that I just want to make sure that we do get addressed. Firmly believe Bob George, Millville, Lake Huntington, those are what I would consider a neighborhood boat ramp and commercial activity. Maybe some kayaks or things like that, but as far as like an actual charter fisherman operating that is not an appropriate place for that. But I'm not against Carl Gray or Snug Harbor being utilized for that, especially given in the ordinance we're allowing UMARC to be able to regulate how many that is. And so I would still like that option to be available, mainly because we have a lot of activity going on at the marina. We don't know what's coming next. And also in St. Andrews, we do have a significant parking issue. And so I would hate for us to implement something that ultimately we find out, oh, we don't have enough space for all of these charter fishermen to continue operating. So I would rather us start with adding Carl Gray and Snug Harbor, which hasn't been built yet, to the eligible commercial use, with the idea that you would regulate that mark within safe reason. Especially considering even in the marina rebuild in St. Andrews, there's going to be a time when all this is going to be replaced. And so I think it's just important to be as flexible as possible. Fully support license, fully support a fee to do that. I think $250 is reasonable on what you guys have proposed. I've read what the Coast Guard has shared as well as other charter boat captains. I do think we need to require liability, so on and so forth. So I fully agree with this is an opportunity to legitimize a lot of businesses that maybe haven't been, as well as educate. And then the last comment that I really had in regards to specifically boat ramp is just at St. Andrews, that temporary docking facility. Sean and I met last week with boat captain over there. I've had several that, since you guys have put the signs out, there have been people who have contacted me, say, thank you so much. We want to be back in Marina. We don't have the ability to do that. So thank you for being flexible. So I just think it's really important as we're rebuilding to just be as flexible as possible, understanding that we're going to get into a more structured process as the marina comes back on. So that was really it. And I appreciate kind of dividing these up, right? There is a whole other section of parks, but I think for the boat ramps and addressing what the charter guys are doing, I think as long as we can make sure we've got enough available space, and I would at least like to see Carl Gray add to that. I mean, Snow Guard doesn't technically isn't there yet, but and then just let you regulate how many that is. So.
Nothing at this time,
I was just thinking that, thinking about Carl Gray, that if it wasn't open, you could put your boat in, tell the people to get you down to the park, because it's so nice and shallow, they can climb in the winter. There's a lot of ways to get around that. So, anyway, you got your hands full trying to police it. That's what work on that.
I mean, that's
That's the whole
that's part of it.
I was gonna say too, Mark, I do think that on the sticker, put it on the trailer too, that'll make it a lot easier for if there's an officer going by, they can actually see that's a commercial and they're registered.
Okay, so I guess at this time we'll have audience participation, and I'll step up to the mic, and I don't know that I might give you a little more than 3 minutes today, so we can, kind of vet out stuff, because we want to hear everybody's opinion.
Well, while someone is coming up, I want to thank everyone for sending me the emails, inviting me to join Facebook, but I'm going to stick with my thoughts. I'm going to stick with you. I'm listening, and I will make the right decision, no matter which way it goes.
So no Facebook.
No Facebook.
All right.
Just share as folks are thinking about coming up, that I know you said $250. I've had others say it needs to be higher than that. That'll be something that we'd like to look at and find out a recommendation and look at what's fair and equitable. But, there's gonna be some expenses, Commissioner Street, that we're gonna be bearing to help facilitate this, that we haven't already had to facilitate to bear. So we've got to make sure that this doesn't become totally a money pit for the operation. So we need to make sure that we have an equitable operation there in terms of cost.
We don't want it to be a money grab either.
No, that's right. It can't be so low that it's still going to be subsidized by the citizens.
I understand that. I think my idea was just, it's zero today.
And zero,
So,
Somebody's got to go first.
there you go.
Sit down.
Brad.
Lead it off.
Hey, Brad Stevens, 1708 Palmetto Avenue. Question specifically about Carl Gray. You have a half mile of beach there. So are we talking about just launching at the boat ramp? Or could somebody use, that's 100 feet wide? You got a lot of feet on each side of it. Could you run kayak charters out of there, kayak rentals? Since it's not using the boat ramp, how is that gonna look?
Well, for me, and notwithstanding what Commissioner Street just shared, that's why Carl Gray was put out as a total shutdown. It was in my estimation, I'm recommending that it be designated as a neighborhood and therefore no commercial activity. That's my recommendation.
How can you see, Carl Gray's On one side has industrial with Panama City Port, separated by a state highway. You have colleges, institutions around it. I don't see how that falls in the neighborhood at all personally. Just neighborhood means you're in a neighborhood, there's no houses
Well, there
anywhere
are,
near that one.
well, there's a 400 student dorm that's next door to it. And then there's also the neighborhood just next to that as well. Yes, there is also industrial on the other side of the highway. I mean, but to me, they classify that as a neighborhood because it is clearly separated. It should not be for, in my opinion, for commercial activity.
All right, so that'd be from the picnic tables all the way to the halfway bridge.
Actually, from the, not the picnic tables, from the stormwater inlet next to the dorms, all the way to Hathaway Bridge.
All right.
No, in my estimation, my recommendation was that no commercial activity at Colgray Park, which extends that whole frontage.
I think a lot of those 400 rooms at the dorms would love to have some recreation down there, specifically non-motorized, how I make my living, to partake. Part of the reason they're coming here is to enjoy the bay. So most of them don't have cars, they have bikes, so having something very accessible to them, I think would go a really long way to helping boost the educational experience at FSUPC.
I know that the student activities has talked about doing exactly that and providing it for their students is separate from a commercial activity for the general population.
Thanks.
I'd just like to say, to add to what Brad said, that's exactly what I was saying earlier, though. We're not saying that we're not going to do commercial activity at those parks. We're saying we're not going to do any of those, the boat, like a motorized boat, right? We're going to look at kayaks, canoes, paddle boards, those kind of things.
Commissioner, just write down Millville Park. It's anticipated that only kayaks at Millville Park, because we have a kayak launch. So, but you have the freedom to make policy decisions on how the different parks are.
Yeah, so I think for me is I would like to see the boat ramp, motorized. I mean, I kind of understand from the jet ski piece and, those things, but I mean, as far as from a low intensity piece, I would love to see us, when we come back and talk about parks in a separate group, talking about how we can bring mobile businesses in line and some of this, because if we're going to try to regulate something, I think this is our opportunity to help think, we can make the barrier to entry so high that nobody will participate whatsoever. Or we can make it reasonable to the point that, hey, this mobile business, that they've been doing business in the city for a really long time, they're going to follow through with the process. It's going to give us an opportunity to speak into how the business operates and try and make it work for the community and the business owner too. I definitely don't want to see it just like full of commercial activity, but at the same time, I mean, I was over there 2 nights ago and I saw the guy with the lighted kayaks. I mean, he was the only one there. Like, it's dark. So, I don't know that that's like a detrimental thing to the community.
One thing real quick. Yep. Remember too, I think what we're talking about more so is the parking that's being taken up at Carl Gray. Regardless of whether or not there's a motorized vehicle or not, is that, and that the number of vehicles and trailers that you see there, so many of them, they're not commercial. They're people that come here from out of town. Dozens and dozens and dozens of them. And we had to figure that out and prove that. But that's what we're having to deal with now, is not just the Bay County and the Panama City residents. It's people coming from all over the place, not necessarily being commercial.
Well, I think
And the parking is being taken up, and if you got a lot of kayaks, they're not gonna walk there over the Hathaway Bridge.
I think we're kind of saying something similar in regards to, that's why I've wanted it available, and I still want it available, is because St. Andrews does have a significant problem parking all boat trailers. And so right now, the only ramp that has ample space for parking is the downtown arena. And so what I'm just trying to do is, step one is trying to, the guys that are legitimately operating and participating in the program, they get them taken care of first, and then walk into, okay, how do we take these other peripheral things and make it better and get it into a better system and process. So I'm in support of making it better. What I don't want to do is chokehold some good things that are happening in our community, because the charter fishermen do bring a lot of positive things to the community. These kayakers, they bring a lot of positive things to the community. I want it to be fair and equitable, but at the same time, I want to make sure that business in Panama City is doing well, and we obviously have a good quality of life that's brought by a lot of the things that
I totally agree with you.
So one thing that has been talked about is the fact that we could put out an RFP for services, not unlike what the beach services does. You know, they have a segment of space that's their space. They have a responsibility to maintain that space, and they operate within that space. And we put out an RFP for that service, if that's a service that we want to have available to citizens. And then there's a fee back to the city for having the privilege of having that service available.
I mean, that's one way to address it, Mark. I'd like us to walk that line. I think that's where I'm kind of moving into. This is our first step. There's gonna be a lot of things that I'll learn through it. Even just this week, you know, the beach is refining their policy because they realized, oh my goodness, can you do DoorDash on the beach? And so there's gonna be things to learn about it. That's why I think just walk needs to be addressed, agree, just phasing into that, and whatever it becomes, I think it'll make it a better policy.
Well, since the county did it first, I mean, now we've got everybody using ours. That's what tough part. Go ahead.
So I just want to use Carl Gray as the example in kayaks, just keep it consistent. This could go across any of them. Commercial activity, I think a lot of people think that is somebody setting up a beach umbrella, a chair, or rent now with some spread out. What if somebody needs a kayak dropped off there, a resident of Panama City that is at Carl Gray Park, and they want a kayak delivered to them to use while they're there? Would that be considered commercial activity? What if they rented it from an entity and drove it there themselves, but still a rental that they're using there? So I just want to, then that could go on to jet skis and boats, all the way down. So I think it's much broader than anybody's really wrapped their head around with, ways around and how it's going to impact some residents. We have lots of people live in planned communities around here we do kayak deliveries to all the time, but they don't have a way to transport it. We have delivered them to Carl Gray Park before, but I wouldn't consider that I'm renting kayaks at Carl Gray Park. But I guess I am.
Or they can say, Brad gave it to me for free today.
We could always encourage lying. Cause it, there's always that line in the sand. It's little, if we knew of an instance that caused all of this to come on, I think it would kind of help get everybody on board. Right now, it just kind of looks like it literally poofed out of the middle of nowhere. And hey, let's see what we can regulate and let's do it. So I'm sure there was something that happened. So I think if some communication could happen on that, it would really help bring the community around to why we're doing this.
Okay, so I can bring some clarity to that. First and foremost, my department received through our electronic, what is it, PC? C-Click Fix. We went ahead and received a patron of the park saying that the park is now being used for commercial activities. And so after a few interactions with a jet ski company, one that ended up receiving several tickets or violations from FWC, the jet ski company was actually running. So they didn't pay for a location like you do on Beck Avenue, right? You lease a building or own a building and have that expense to your business. They were putting that expense on us as a city and the citizens by utilizing Carl Gray as their location of business. So we're bringing all their vehicles, all their jet skis there, setting up a tent, doing their waivers, right? When you're about to use a rented vehicle, putting flags up there and so forth. So then we had that, shortly after that in the evening time, we had the glow in the dark kayaks that were at Destination Panama City. At their location, but the water's too deep. And people that are not comfortable in the water, they're very uncomfortable with that quick drop off. So that's why Carl Gray is ideal for them versus Destination Panama City, because I know that location was mentioned prior. So then Brad, because you asked this question, then when staff was out there, that was, again, it's the same criteria. It's a commercial business running. They bring their trailer, their van, they block several parking spaces. Now they have flags up, they have lights because it's at night, and then they have, either 10 to a dozen. So it's a commercial operation. You're talking about dropping off to a couple that is gonna use Carl Gray, and you're gonna drop off a rental of two kayaks is not a commercial vehicle being parked there doing this, but that's basically how it generated for us to start moving in this direction. And at this time, we have airboat rides going out of Carl Gray, commercial activity. We have jet ski being pulled of the, what is it called when you, parasailing out of Carl Gray, commercial activity. We have 2 different kayak commercial activity, and then we have 2 to 3 jet skis. So trying to go there with your children to swim in that water, or even use your recreational boat with all this activity going on without regulation, I would pose that there should be a system in place if we're gonna go that route.
And I think that's what I'm saying. Put a system in place, and then you can start to manage it. And that's really where I'm, because you can see that there is a commercial element to even how the park operates today. Not that legally it's operating as a commercial way, but it is something that brings amenity to the community. And I think there's a way to legitimize it by walking into what we do.
Right, but Commissioner Street, just to give you how that evolved is that both our neighbors, the county and the beach, went ahead and did that. They were not here prior to that.
That's right. Well, the kayaker was.
Yes, because they started off at destination Panama City locations, and it wasn't suitable for them, yes, sir.
When I first got elected, people have asked me, what is one of your goals, And my goal was to make it easier to do business in the city of Panama City, And of course, at that point, I wasn't even thinking about the voting community, and please forgive me for that, because I was thinking brick and mortar, and all the loopholes that people have to go through, the red tape with the different departments and what's involved and blah, blah, blah. And I think the mayor probably might have felt the same way. And I think all of us like less government, but we have to figure out safety is a huge issue. I mean, when you just mentioned parasailers, that's a huge issue. Children running around, to get away from their parents is a huge issue. That can happen anywhere. So, but we don't want to hurt anybody that's operating businesses. But by the same token, it wouldn't be right for me as a musician to go over there and set up a little portable stage and play my guitar all day and get paid for it and take tips, just because it's a great location for people boating and stuff. I can't do that. So we got to figure out what the city uses for. I think that's kind of what we're all saying.
Yeah, so I think, let me be clear. I'm not saying don't regulate. So I'm definitely not saying that. I'm just saying don't ban it. So the way it reads today is all commercial activity will be banned from Carl Gray Park. So I'm not saying don't regulate it. I'm just saying don't ban it. Just to be clear. My turn.
Captain James Tick, 2508 West 9th Street. First of all, I want to tell you guys, we appreciate you allowing us to use the marina. It's been very easy. I don't believe there's been a parking issue. My customers meet me there, and everybody, for the most part, gets along. There's been no hassles or anything like that. And it's been great at the marina. So it's gone really well. I think you guys are missing some of the intricacies of our business, though. For instance, in your licensing, there's 3 different kinds of boats that are going to be at the marina. There's going to be those that rent slips. Those are going to be that launch their boats. And then there's going to be people like me that actually just pick up their customers there because I have a slip elsewhere. So when you go to consider how many licenses you're going to put out or give out, should be a certain amount of licenses for each different one. Of course, the people that have slips there are going to automatically be included. So really the big deal that you're going to have is how many boats are you going to allow to launch
Right, that's exactly.
Pardon me, sir, what was the name?
James Pick, DIC.
What boat do you?
I don't have a name on my boat,
Oh,
but it's, I'm on there. I should be on there.
okay.
Trout Slayer.
Trout's.
I never used the launch until this year because I always picked up at Huntington.
All right, somebody else? Comment?
Might be under JP2 Fish.
Never get a chance to
I
speak
know.
for our group. Bob Stapleton, 542 South Bonita. I used to run charters out of the marina, and I think if it's the Panama City Marina, if I think it's, the facilities were well designed. There was a pickup and drop off dock. Of course, there was a lot of room then, it still is now. But I mean, if it's planned for, it can be, a good service for the community. The dock got so dilapidated, I was picking up and dropping off at the fuel dock, which wouldn't be appropriate, I wouldn't think. But if you're gonna have a place where you can run commercial activity, you need to separate it obviously from just launching and recovering boats, which I'm hoping we can get to the phase where we're talking about what's the best design for a down canal marina. And one other point that I was just listening, maybe everybody doesn't understand this, but for the Coast Guard six-pack license, uninspected vessel, they have specific requirements of what must be on those vessels. I mean, some people might not, oh, they don't even have to have an inspection. No, they are required to have those items, but the U in the UPV is uninspected, so they aren't required to be inspected. But if they stop the boat, it better have that stuff on it. But as it seems like they said, yeah, with the city's direction, we will be glad to inspect them, which would be very appropriate, I think. I mean, the right thing to do. Anyway.
I had another point.
I'm Keith Birch. I'm 3426 Cherry Ridge Road, Van Haven. I run the Boat Old Town Charters. I run an uninspected vessel as well. I had the U.S. Coast Guard come out and inspect my vessel, so I actually have the sticker on the vessel as well. So I've also turned in my captain's license, a copy of my captain's license, and my insurance to the St. Andrews Marina. There's a group of us that did this years ago, so we've been trying to do the right thing from the start. We're not trying to operate behind any hidden aspects of the charter boat business. Since Hurricane Michael got rid of most of the marina there, we makeshift and we pick up on the wall with a bunch of tires that we have hung there to pick up passengers back and forth. I'm like Captain Pick. I actually have my boat somewhere else and I bring it over there and just pick up my passengers as well. So I'm not actually using the launch at St. Andrews Marina. I did when I first started until I found a boat slip somewhere else. So at that time though, when I started using that marina, we had parking right across from the marina as well. And that little gravel lot there. And since that's been taken away, but even the few captains that do launch their boats there now, we don't see a lot of problems with parking there in the mornings. There's usually plenty of parkings out there on the pier. If you come down there and watch it in the mornings, we pull in, we pick up our passengers, and we're out of there. We're not there more than 5-10 minutes at the max. So it's a very smooth transition. I don't see us interfering with the public as far as picking up our passengers and them lunching. I mean, I don't see that. I mean, I know they're just about every morning. So it's pretty smooth operation there. My question though is how do you separate picking up at the boat ramp and the St. Andrews Marina? Because, I mean, a lot of us already done all these things you guys have asked us to do, or you guys are debating about what we need to do. We're doing those things already. I know personally myself, I have talked to the marina about charging us a fee, because we're using their facility to pick up people. So that's my question for you guys. Are we gonna be operating through the marina, or are we gonna be operating through the city? Or is it the same?
Cities.
So, I mean, but there's a lot of us, I mean, we're doing what you guys are talking about already. So,
And that's great. I appreciate hearing that. Thank you. I noticed in the afternoons, I can't speak for this summer. I've not been over there a lot this summer. Forgive me. But last summer I was over there quite a bit because my son worked on one of the boats. I'd go over there and watch him unload his fleet every day, you know. But it was hard to find a target place in the afternoons, not in the morning.
yes, sir. And a lot of us smaller boats, we're running 4 to 5 hour trips. We're not tying up parking for 8 or 12 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, so our people, you know, sometimes we pick up 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. So like Captain Pig was saying, they're getting an early lunch crowd. I mean, from us. I mean, that's where the.
And they also get tourists that just are interested.
Right.
I see couples walking around and think it's pretty cool, you know, look at the full-time boat.
And a lot of times when we, you know, our customers, they come fishing with us and their wives and girlfriends, and fiancés, they go downtown and they go shopping and stuff. And I mean, we send them out in the community to spend money. I mean, we do. So I think we're all in this together. And
There's a positive ripple effect with business, no doubt about it.
right.
So I'm, no pun intended, this is a little bit of uncharted waters.
Yeah. And it is. And, you know, I mean, I've been operating almost 6 years down there.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, it's for all this to come up to the top, it's kind of a shock to me because I thought that we already talked a lot about this.
Evidently, I received, I don't know if these guys received the emails, and good people, you know, but obviously they got cut off from their operations at the beach. And next thing I heard was they're operating out of Carl Gray. And I don't know exactly what they were even doing. Whether it was an excursion, trip to look at dolphins, or what they were doing, I don't know. Can somebody address that?
Well, that's what Shell's brought up, you know, I mean, that was it right there, that's what's.
That's where it came from. That's where it came from.
But I mean, all of us captains, I mean, we work, I mean, we're very
It's not
professional,
you
proud,
guys, it's
and
a problem.
we're really, I mean, we make it happen every day, and we have for years, and we have not had any problems over there, you know.
That's what we need to work out. That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I got Andrew. So you guys said something about a specific area that the city was gonna provide based on the fees. Is that correct? Did I hear that right?
What I was talking about, James, was a temporary floating dock system that would be away from, it would be in the basin, the St. Andrews Basin, on the southeast side of it, against the, where you come onto the L dock.
Well, I would like to suggest that you take, do a mathematical equation as far as how much fees you're gonna have come in based on the amount of slip area that you're gonna have for people like me to pick our people up. And I don't think anybody minds cleaning it up and taking care of it and doing work days every now and then to repair cleats and things like that. But the main thing I think a lot of people are concerned about, even though they may not have thought about it, is if you're gonna do this, you need to guarantee our space to us. In other words, we need to know that the city's gonna be there for us and they're not gonna, collect these fees and all of a sudden it's gone.
The only time it's gonna be gone is when the new marina gets built. And then it'll be permanent.
And so then we'll have a permanent area there.
That's right.
Okay, so then the other thing is all the rumors of the Panama City Marina. Are we gonna keep that? Is the city gonna keep that? We are?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so this is gonna happen there also, possibly?
Yeah, I would have no problems.
I'm not trying to put any pressure
No,
on you.
no,
I mean,
I would
I'm
have
just
no
looking
problems with
ahead.
that. That's right, yeah, there's no problem with that.
I just want everybody to have room.
Yeah,
You know, all of us should have room.
Sure, the configuration at the St. Andrews Marina is to go back exactly in the same configuration it was before. It's the working marina. It's the one that we want to have for charter vessels and whatnot. The Panama City Marina is going to go back into a different configuration of 35 to 120 foot sized slips and available ships to be able, or vessels to be able to go in there.
And the launch is gonna stay, and parking behind the old municipal auditorium is all gonna stay.
Until we have something better, it's gonna stay.
Thank you. So that's not what we're here for Daniel for.
You know how that money
Boat ramp is
that money's walking around that water all the time. Want something better.
I think that's the best answer that we can give
Yeah.
until we're not taking away any access to the water until we've got more access somewhere else.
And I think that's what all of us are really concerned about.
That's not.
How we do it? Fred Trotter, 3509 Mill Street, Panama City. My question is, and I guess I use the boat launch. I know a lot of these guys don't. I do use it. I'm there.
Commercial?
Yes. So I'm there every morning. 7 o'clock, sometimes I pick up 7:30, 8 o'clock. Just depends on my clientele, what time they want to get up in the morning.
St. Andrews?
Yes, St. Andrews.
Fishing, okay.
And it's shocking to me, I guess, that I don't see all this disturbance that you guys are talking about. I'm there by myself, nobody around me, the parking lot's empty. The only people there are Uncle Ernie's cleaning up their building. So when you talk about parking and stuff, it kind of confuses me because, and I'm maybe a little different from them, I do one trip a day, I'm old. One trip a day, I'm done.
All guys gotta
So-
stay together.
My group comes in, one car, one vehicle, 4 hours, 5 hours, maybe even 6, and they're gone. So by lunchtime, parking spot's empty again because my group leaves. There's probably 5 of us that do one trip, we're getting old. And they're gone. And so their second trip comes in and say, well, first of all, the first trip, you're talking, I heard somebody last week said 6 hours of parking taken up, 8 hours of parking. It's not. Because between 6 o'clock in the morning till 11 o'clock, nobody's in that area. And you could probably almost go up to 11:30 before Uncle Ernie starts getting busy. Nobody's in that area. The parking is not being taken over. The only time parking is tough, and I know you said you went there,
Afternoons.
afternoons, June, maybe June and July.
Yeah.
That's it.
When the tourists are here.
Right. And that's the only time.
When
I
it's
mean,
snapper season, I mean.
exactly. So that's the only time there's parking problems. That's the only time there's, unless there's an event. If there's an event, yes, that area is full and most of us go somewhere else to pick up if we can. So that's where I'm confused about how many people or how many charters do you think launch from St. Andrews Marina? There's maybe a half a dozen of
Yeah,
us
there's not that many.
that launch there. We're not taking up all this parking that everybody's talking about. Now, I don't know about the kayaks, I don't know about the jet skis and all those other things. That's a whole different ballgame than the charter captains. I mean, I think Keith said it, we're in and out. I mean, if I'm there more than 30 minutes, it's cutting into my time. I'm starting to get a little agitated. Where's my customers? Hey, were you guys coming? If there's ever a problem, and because I do launch as a thing, I help who knows how many tourists put the boat in, put the boat out, make it easier for them, restart their motor for them, jumpstart their batteries because they don't check them. I mean, we do a service for them eventually out there. So I was just confused and wanted to know how many do you think really launch from there that we've taken up all this parking?
I don't know. I'll be as honest as I can be.
We do have pickup people that have their boats in other places, bottom fishing, and so they'll meet people over there and have 3 or 4 vehicles where they take out 6 or 8 people. But it's for a small window of time.
Yeah. And I
You
think
know,
most
August
of them are
17th,
one car.
that's probably gonna stop.
Yeah.
It's already stopped for us, Mayor.
Sort of slowed down.
Oh, yeah. I mean, next month, that whole
We
parking
ended
is gonna
at
be
the end of the
empty.
month.
So just thought I'd throw that out there. Yeah, thank you.
School starts so early.
I would like to add, you guys, that the one that seems to be used all the time, the St. Andrews Marina, is the one with the least parking that we have. So that's kind of interesting. And then the Panama City Marina ramp, right now you only have Panama City and St. Andrews as marinas that could be commercial use. And I just like to say, I'm not, that whole boat ramp thing, I mean, everybody has a different opinion about, including myself. So, but we need to think about that. I mean, you're talking about 2 marina ramps. That means that we're making sure that we keep that Panama City Marina ramp for commercial use. And I'm okay with that. But just wanted to mention that.
Okay, we got plenty of input. Listen, thanks for taking your time to be here today, and we're gonna massage all of this and take all the comments. We get some great comments today. Mitch, you don't have anything to say about parking?
I know you're gonna call us, Mitch. I know you're gonna call us.
I came to listen.
Get up here.
But for everybody to say that, you know, from 6 to 11, there may not be any parking problems.
Right.
But I promise you, in another hour, there's gonna be parking problems.
Yes, sir.
And we've got parking lots down there that is not getting used, that were intended to get used. You know that picture I sent you?
Yes, sir.
That was supposed to be for employees and customers. If it doesn't get used in July, what good is it? Because I haven't seen a car in it the whole month of July. So obviously,
We need some signage.
Signage is important. Very.
Okay,
Great. Are y'all gonna vote on this next commission meeting, or is there gonna be a whole nother?
oh, no.
Okay, just making sure.
We've got a lot of massage.
We just
And we're,
wanted to
we're
hear you.
talking next year, right? We're talking next year on all this, sometime next year?
I mean, probably half your staff receives it.
Yeah.
But,
That ended 2 days ago, or 4 days ago for us. All of us are state water boats.
When is there some snapper weekends in September?
We get some weekends in October, but most of us are state water boats, so ours ended on July 31st.
go ahead.
Tim Hanna, 1508 Lake Avenue, Panama City. It sounds, this is kind of what I'm hearing, is y'all got a problem at Carl Gray Park. And because of that, you're like lumping like a bunch of people into the problem that's going on at Carl Gray Park. And I can understand that. If you got somebody setting up a tent and, you know, running a business out of there, I really understand that. The second thing I wanted to say is, well, the first thing is, yeah, deal with the Carl Gray thing. That sounds like that needs to be dealt with. But I think at the same time, there could be commercial activity there, in my opinion. One thing you guys got to understand, and y'all know, you guys are business people too. Commercial people are efficient. We get in and we get out. It's all about making money, keeping your customer happy. We don't want to be, dogging around at a marina for, 45 minutes or something. But another thing I wanted to say is what Fred talked about our customers, a little bit more about them. A lot of our customers get dropped off. They don't even take up a parking spot. They'll get dropped off, and like Fred said, the wife will go shopping. She'll go back to the condo and just get a break from all of us, or something like that. So to lump everybody in, and then one other thing I'm not sure about is you're saying commercial activity, but it's all pointed towards guide boats or charter boats. There's a lot of other commercial activity. There's people using those boat ramps that maybe, I hope there's no dock builders here, but guys that build docks. They come down there, they drop pilings off in the middle of those ramps. Y'all may not see it because they do it early in the morning. Once again, they're efficient. They get in there, they drop their pilings off, they take them and they drag them to where they're building a dock. There's contractors that work for the Navy that are dropping vessels off at both these marinas. They get in there, they drop the vessel off, they go do their thing and they come back, but that's commercial activity. Photographers? Yeah, there may be photographers, I don't know about that, but anyway, there's not just charter boat operators and jet ski operators and all that. Y'all seem kind of focused on that, but there's a lot. So are all these other commercial people gonna have to get permitted as well? And another thing is, gosh, I could keep going, but the $250, that seems really high to me. And is that per vessel? So if an operator has, say, 10 vessels, is that $250 a vessel? Or in my case, I just have one little boat. You know, $250 to me is not a big deal, but to that guy that may be building docks, he may have multiple pieces of equipment that he's got to be, you know, bringing in and out. You know, and we see that stuff because we're down there every day. You know, different, you know, one of the dock builders had one of their barges tied up at the marina for 4 or 5 days there along the seawall. I'm not gonna, you know, say who it was, but they're doing the same thing I'm doing. And are they gonna be regulated as well?
Great point. Thank you.
That's a very good point.
And Tim, I agree with him. I would also say that, like, I know when we have to have our boat worked on, we take it to the boat ramp to be taken out. So that's also commercial. I mean, you're right. There's a lot of commercial use.
Yeah.
One thing that it
If you
may
could
be
state,
now,
can you state your name? and-
Mitch Holman, 8919 North Lagoon Drive, Panama City Beach. Maybe when we're talking about people coming for 4 hours or 6 hours or 12 hours, maybe it's time to really get serious with the paid parking. That's what we're lacking down there. If everybody pays their fair share and instead of somebody sitting there taking a prime spot for 8 hours on Beck Avenue or right across the street from the marina, if you got a card to stick in there and you're charging them, they probably are either gonna find a cheaper spot or either y'all collect some money off of it. But the free parking down there, I think, is way outdated.
Here, here. I would echo what Billy said on this. I think that's a more efficient way to help us manage a longer term. Those of you guys that are doing short trips, it's not really a big deal. The guys that go out and they do 12, 14 hours, I mean, it starts affecting some of the retail and everything.
I got some people online that would,
If they raise their hand, we'll be able to identify who they are if they have a question.
Captain John Van here. I'd just like to second all of the points that the captains have made today. They're very on point and prudent, as well as Commissioner Street's comments. I totally agree with him and the captains as well.
Thanks, John.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I don't see any hands.
Okay, well, we're still gonna be doing a lot of massaging, and we're not gonna be voting on anything in the next week or two, and we'll, when we do have something else proposed, we'll.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, what we would do is we'll withdraw this, and then staff will come back together, bring a recommendation, and we'll go through the public hearing process, initiate it over again. So it won't happen like in 2 weeks.
Absolutely not. Okay, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate you guys showing up.
Okay, thank you.